So you're finally ready to do what it takes to lose that stubborn belly fat of yours, and I'm here to help you. First though, let's determine how long it'll take you to do so. What I want you to do is first find out which one of these 6 photos best represents your current body fat percentage and where you're at right now. Now, in order to successfully strip off that stubborn belly fat, you're going to have to get down to ideally around 10% body fat or so. And by using what we know is the optimal rate of fat loss to shoot for, we can get a rough estimate shown here of how long this process will take you to do based on where you're at right now, and assuming that you stay consistent with the right approach week after week. Now, for a lot of you, this may come as a surprise and is likely a lot longer than what you expected, because most of us, and myself included, obviously want to lose that stubborn belly fat as soon as possible. But what most people are unaware of is that there's actually a physiological catch with belly fat that explains why it's so hard to lose when compared to other areas, and explains why you may not be seeing any actual improvement in your belly fat despite your efforts. And this has to do with 2 main reasons, with the first and primary reason being that when compared to other areas of your body, stubborn areas like your belly fat actually consist of a greater amount of a certain type of fat cell that's very resistant to mobilization and a lot more difficult to burn off. And secondly, the subcutaneous fat covering your abdominal area also receives significantly less blood flow than other parts of your body do. And this makes things more difficult because the less blood flow an area of your body receives, the more difficult it becomes to mobilize and burn off the fat from that area. And these 2 reasons are why your belly fat is so difficult to lose, and it's why certain areas of your body like your face, your chest, and your arms are going to tone up quickly, while more stubborn areas like your belly fat just seems to remain unchanged. The good news, however, is that losing your belly fat is not impossible. It's just that most people screw up the process before fat loss can even reach that region. But today I'll clear it all up for you with a 3-step protocol that you can use to both lose that stubborn belly fat for good and potentially speed up the process at which you lose fat from that region. And the first step is something that most of you are probably familiar with, but it's hands down going to be the most important step. Because in order to lose fat from anywhere, you need to be in a calorie deficit, and your belly fat is no different, as it's governed by the same principle, and there's no break in the law of physics here. So to start out, you need to be eating at a calorie deficit and combining this with regular weightlifting for the best results. So the next step has to do with actually mobilizing your belly fat such that you can start losing fat from that area. But the only way to do this, and is where most people fail with the process, is by adhering to step 1, a calorie deficit, for long enough until fat loss starts to finally come off from your belly. Because remember, your body is going to prioritize losing fat in other areas like your chest, your arms, and your face before it eventually moves on to your belly fat, since these other areas are much easier for your body to burn off and use for energy. Sadly though, what happens with most people is they'll implement step 1, but then after a month or 2 of this, they see no discernible change in their belly fat, and as a result decide to try a new diet, for example, or just quit altogether since it doesn't seem to be working for them. But the reality is that they haven't stuck to the plan long enough for the fat loss to even have a chance of reaching their belly fat in the first place. Take a look at Dylan here, for example, who's a member of one of my Build Science programs. As you can see, he was able to successfully lean down and strip off a lot of his initial belly fat. But let's take a closer look at his start and his month 2 photo, for example. So imagine if after 2 months you were to look at these 2 photos of yourself. You'd probably say to yourself that your belly fat hasn't really changed at all, the plan just isn't really working, and you'll likely quit altogether as a result. But what you have to realize is that although there may not have been much change in Dylan's belly fat, if you look closely at other regions like his chest, his arms, and his face, you can clearly see fat loss occurring in those areas. And by Dylan refusing to quit and instead sticking to his plan just a little bit longer, he was finally able to see more and more of the fat loss occurring from his belly. But had he quit 2 months in, based on what he saw, he would have never given his body the opportunity to eventually mobilize more and more of the stubborn belly fat from his belly and drastically transform his physique as a result. Meaning that you need to ride out the calorie deficit for long enough such that your body has stripped off enough fat from other areas and now needs to rely more on burning off your belly fat for fuel. And in fact, what's really interesting is that multiple papers have indicated that there seems to be an inverse relationship between your body fat percentage and your abdominal blood flow. And as a result of this, leaner individuals actually exhibit significantly greater blood flow to their belly fat than less lean individuals do. Simply meaning that as you gradually strip off more and more fat from other areas of your body and get leaner, your body will actually start redirecting more and more blood flow to your belly fat so that it can start prioritizing and using that for energy, which is just more reason why you need to ride out that calorie deficit for long enough, since the process of you losing your belly fat is going to naturally speed up every step of the way as your body begins.